Hey guys, so what we're doing today is we're going to be learning how to do a color wheel, how to make a color wheel. A color wheel is basically a tool that we can use to determine what colors mix together to make what other colors. So what I'm using, I'm just using our standard school kit and your standard brushes that we got in our art kits. I've got a yogurt container full of water. Actually, I have two of them. One's going to be clean, one's going to be dirty. And I'm going to be using one of these. But if you're working from home, you can also use like just a margarine container, ice cream container, even your lid for your paints works just fine as well. Just some place where you can mix paint together. But I'm going to be using this for now. And if you're at the school, then we have lots of these at the school. Okay, so there are a bunch of different categories that we can assign colors in the color wheel. There's primary colors, there's secondary colors, and there's tertiary colors. So the first thing that we need to do is determine which ones are our primary colors. There are three different colors. If you know what they are, that's great. They are red. Just gonna get some red on my brush here. So that one's actually ink and I can't get it out. Red, blue, and yellow. Those are the three colors that are primary. What a primary color means is that you cannot mix it. You cannot make it. So we'll see how, it's impossible to make a red out of any other colors. All the other colors, orange, green, etc., we can make them by mixing other colors together. All right, so I've got a nice red mixed here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put kind of like a swatch right here. And I'm going to try not to make it puddle. I'm going to make it nice and full like that. Just putting it kind of in the middle of my page, near the top, and you can do that as well. All right, I'm going to clean my brush. And let's move on to our next color. It's a good idea to have paper towel around just for cleaning off your brush. So the next color that we wanted to talk about was blue. So I'm going to take some blue. I'm going to use this color right here. I'm going to get it in my, actually it's a little bit more purple than I thought it was. I'm going to scratch that. I'm going to do this bottom blue down here. It's looking a little better. A bit more like blue. And you always want to add water to your watercolors. The water kind of acts as kind of a carrier of the paint, right? So you have when the water dries, when it evaporates, all you're left with is the paint, and that's what kind of makes watercolors unique. Whereas like a oil paint or something like that, oil paint never really totally dries all the way, which is kind of interesting. All right, I've got a nice puddle of blue here, and I'm just gonna make a blue area kind of over here someplace. Again, I'm gonna try and keep it from puddling too much. If it does, it's all right. This is just for our practice here today. Good. last but not least, our last primary color is yellow. So find that nice bright yellow in your on your palette there, and start mixing stuff. Now yellow is going to be tricky because it's a really light color. So you're going to want to make sure that your water is actually very, very clean when you're doing it. So if you can see, because I had just a little bit of blue on my brush, you can see that it's actually tainting it, right? It's already starting to look green. So it might be a good idea even to switch over to a clean brush if you have one, like one that is totally clean. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make sure that this yellow is just very, very pure. That looks better. And if your water is dirty, don't be shy. Go change it out. I heard someone once say that if your water is too dirty, or your water should be clean enough that you'd feel comfortable putting a goldfish in it. Right. So if you're painting and it's you're making colors, you got to make sure that you're making it clean enough that you'd be comfortable putting a goldfish in. So it's just kind of a fun little anecdote there. All right. This brush isn't as big, so I can't get enough paint on it. That's good for now. Okay. And then over here, we're just gonna kind of make it a little triangle area, and we're gonna put some yellow down over here. Okay, so these are our primary colors. You cannot make red, blue, and yellow. It's impossible to do. But all the other colors we can mix. So these are our primaries. Actually, can I get a pencil here? Sort of let you know this is primary. Primary. Okay, so when we mix these colors together, I'm only going to use these three colors that I already have. I know we have all these other beautiful colors on our palette here, but I'm just going to use red, blue, and yellow in order to mix every other color. So when we take some red, take a little bit of red, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a scoop out of my little dish here, and I'll put it over here. Take a little bit more. Make sure I'm cleaning my brush. It's important to have a clean brush when you're painting. Otherwise, your colors just turn to mud. Then I'm going to take some blue, and I'm going to add it to the same little area here. So again, if you're using a margarine container or your plastic of your lid or something, that's fine. And you're noticing that it changed color, right? So you should get a nice purple when you're all done. And you can, if you add more or less of one or the other colors, you can kind of figure out what kind of purple you want to make, right? So there you have it. We now have a purple just from those two colors, right? So just using red and blue, I was able to make a purple. So this is a secondary color, right? Because primary first, mixing two, that's secondary. Any guesses what we would get if we were to mix blue and yellow? You would get green. So I'm going to take some yellow. here. And then I'm going to take some blue. Mix it in, and look at that, you get green. So you might need to take a little bit more yellow, depending on the color of green that you're trying to make, right? So there's, actually this is more getting into the tertiary colors, the third zone. But if you add more yellow, you're gonna get a more yellowy green than if you add just straight blue, right? So make sure, so my brush just gobbled up all that paint. Make sure your brush is wet so it doesn't gobble up all the paint. Just gonna add a little bit more blue. Good enough. So there, now we can do some green. So that's mixing blue and yellow. That's what that makes. And always make sure you're cleaning your brush. And last but not least, what do you guys think is what we get when we mix yellow and red? It is orange. It needs more paper towel, I think. So yellow and red. Get some more yellow. Put it on my palette. It's a good idea to try and keep your paint swatches here. Try to keep them nice and clean. Okay, so if you start getting like blue or something in your paint, well, that's not any good to anyone, right? It's gonna turn out a different color. So make sure you try and keep these very clean. It'll just make life easier in the long run. So I'm putting lots of yellow back into my palette here. And you'll notice that I'm making these colors not on the page. I'm not mixing them on the page. I'm mixing them in my little palette here, right? It's a good idea to make sure that you're not mixing on your page. It just has a tendency to turn into mud if you do that too often. We don't want mud. My red. I'm gonna refill my red. So the process is you're taking paint from your tray and then putting it into your palette. And then from the palette, it's going onto your page. That's the process. All right, so now I'm going to mix these two colors together and see what we get. So I'm just gonna mix it right into this yellow because this is gonna be our orange. So pretty easy. Just a little bit of red turned it into a nice orange color there. Just like that. We've got orange. And these are our secondary colors. So the third option is our tertiary colors. Third. So secondary, tertiary is third, if you're keeping score. And what we do now is we would just add more or less red to this orange in order to get an orangey red, right? So if I just take a little bit of red and add it more to it, right, we would get an even redder orange. Maybe I'll just add a little bit more red from the palette. And then the same goes for our yellow. So if we add a whole bunch of yellow to our orange, now yellow is a pale color, so you're going to need to use more yellow paint than you would red paint. Red is very powerful, right? It kind of tends to overtake a lot of the other colors, but yellow is pale. It doesn't do quite as powerful job as a red does. So there you have kind of a yellowy orange. So it's a kind of a darker yellow. And then we can do yellow and green. So if I add more yellow to my green, we will get kind of a more greeny color there. So you can see that there's now like this kind of progression happening through the hues, right? They're all changing kind of as one. Move on to our blues. So adding more blue to our green, we'll get a different color entirely. It's kind of turning into this aquamarine sort of a color, which is kind of nice. And then blue and purple. Where's my purple? A little bit more blue to that. If you're not careful, you can easily run out of paint, like in your little trays and stuff. So you're always going to need to keep an eye out for how much paint you have in your trays and make sure you're filling them up as you go. Now here's something interesting. Because there's a lot more pigment in this, what I'm just painting right now, it's a lot darker than the purple that we did initially. So that's another thing that you'll have to keep in mind. Right, so how much water is on your page? You'll have to figure that out as well. And lastly, we'll add more red to our purple. To kind of get this maroon-y color. And there you have a color wheel. Pretty straightforward. But just for kicks, what happens when we mix the three primary colors together? So red, blue, and yellow. What do we get? Let's do it for fun. So I'm going to take some yellow. I'm going to plop it in here. Some yellow. And then if I add red, what's going to happen? It's going to make orange. So I've essentially made an orange here. All right. I need some more yellow, I think. That's better. All right, I've got an orange. And then if I add blue to orange, blue and orange are opposites, right? Blue's over here, orange is over here, opposites. So if I add blue to an orange, you're gonna end up with a dark, dark, almost black. It's not gonna be pure black, but it's gonna be very, very dark. Now, this might have happened that we had a bit too much blue, so it's kind of got a blue tint, but you can tell that it's kind of a unique color, right? It's not like any of these other ones. And so when you mix mix opposites together, you end up with something kind of a gray generally. So again, we have our primaries. These are our primaries here. And then we have our secondaries. So purple, orange, and green. Those are secondaries. And our tertiaries are kind of along the middle. And then the opposites make a black, right? So I mixed all of the colors basically because I mixed blue, red, and yellow together and I got this color. Different variations will get different results. All right, so that's basically color theory 101. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And once again, I don't care if you like or subscribe. Have a good day, guys. We'll see you later.